Oh my gosh. All right, so here we are. Third attempt of trying to make this video work. We've got an International 5000 here. Will it start? I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. The more important thing is that this is a shop cleanup video or a property cleanup, whatever. I still haven't come up with a good name for this project. So we're on episode 2 or whatever because episode 1 was moving the 602. I did not do a very good job filming that, so that stumpy little video is over on the members channel. It's not exciting. You're not missing anything if you haven't seen it. So, yes, cleanup. So, I talked about this in the beginning, in the introduction to the whole property cleanup series, but in case you haven't seen that or if you want a refresher, basically, in order to get, in order to get the International 1586 out of here, it needs to be fixed so we can trade it, right? Well, in order to fix it, I need a shop. In order to get to the shop, we have to get the Pontiac out of there. In order to get the Pontiac out of the shop, we have to move this so that we can move that, so that we can get the car out and then pick up the rest of this junk and be all grand and cool and super and awesome and whatever. So what I want to do with this is start it up and move it. Pretty simple. So first two, is this attempt number 4 or 3 of trying to film this? I don't know. But when I went to come and film this, I threw this questionable alternator. Don't worry about that. It's fine. I threw a questionable alternator on there so that the fan belt would, turn the fan so it didn't melt. The engine didn't melt. I got the starter hooked up and everything. I got a battery that I thought was good and that was charged, and I hooked it up. Well, and the starter just was not having it. So I come over with my pickup to jump it. Not really much any difference. It's like the starter doesn't have enough get up and go to turn the motor. So, okay. I was like, well, okay, and that battery could be shot. So I charge another battery. No, I put the same battery back on the charger. Anyway, point is, that starter didn't work. So then we have another unit that is junk, but we got it for parts years ago when we were still running this thing as an actual swather. And I robbed the starter off of it. I Frankensteined the starter together because the solenoid on this one was bad. So I took the solenoid off the original starter, put it on this, Frankensteined a unit together, hooked it up. Still nothing. And I was getting really, really mad. And then one day I realized that because I had put the battery charger on Zippy, and I realized, well, Zippy's not charging. And then I figured out, oh, it's because the battery charger, the ground cable, is only attached to the clamp with like 3 wires. And that's probably why it's not charging anything. So, fix the battery charger, charge up a battery, and... Oh. Would you look at that? It cranks just like it's supposed to. So, if it'll crank, it'll fire, which is optimistic, I will admit. And so, I can also crank this from in the cab. And so, this should fire right up. Throw some fuel in it and stuff. Should be all cool and good. But more importantly than that, we need to get this stuff out of the way. Because in case this does fire up, there's a very good chance that the wheel is turned a certain way that it's not supposed to be. Or that it is in reverse or forward and not neutral. And it might want to, take off and do stuff that it shouldn't do. So... I need to clear all this junk out of the way and make sure that we've got a good area to operate in case this does fire up and it wants to take off without me wanting it to. I can control it and I have some reaction time before I hit something and tear something up. So I'm going to get all of this cleaned. I still have to figure out where to go with it. And then I got to clean the spot where I'm going to move this to. And I got to air up the tires and I got to find a freaking cap for the fuel tank because it's gone. And all sorts of other cool stuff like that. So we will begin on that. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, some of you might be curious as to this unit here. This is, in fact, an International 5000 Windrower. I do not know what year. Do not care. It was used as a swather for quite a while. But over time, the header, there are certain parts for the header that became hard to get. And it wasn't wanting to cut as well. It was, if I remember right, and I was little when we were still using this, but if I remember right, it only had a single auger, and so it would bind up really easily, so you couldn't cut anything heavy with it very quickly. And the 1495 New Holland quickly started replacing this. And then, the last year that we cut hay, we had a Hydra Swing, a Heston Hydra Swing, and we use those to cut hay. So this thing has been out of the hay cutting business for like a while. And so the thought was that, okay, it won't do something with a header, but what if we try and take some of these parts that we have and we try and turn it into a sprayer? So my grandpa and one of my cousins comes out and they hook this whole thing up and turn it into a sprayer. And then it got moved from right here to right here. And this is where it has sat for probably the past 10 years. And yeah, so it hasn't run in a while. And Dad said that it was also getting the hydrostat and it was getting weak. It wouldn't push. It was just having trouble pushing stuff up hills and things like that. So it should be okay to go ahead and start up and run and move and all that. I already pulled the dipstick. It's got brand new oil in it. The fuel tank's empty. Like I said, there's no cap. I don't know how long that's been gone, but I don't think the injection pump's full of water. The shutoff does work, so I can shut this off if it starts to run away for some stupid reason. I don't think it will. And obviously the motor's free because I can crank it. So, I mean, it should fire right up and be okay. No worries. We may have to add some hydraulic fluid to it, but that's all right. And then we'll just kind of get her moved out of the way. Now, long term, we're not turning this back into a swather. What we want to do is take this engine and turn it into a power unit, because these little 239s are kind of handy if you wanted like a mobile power unit. That's kind of what we're thinking. So we'll see. And I did a quick visual inspection of stuff. These fuel lines, they're hard plastic, so they're okay. This is, I guess, a return. It's okay because, yeah, this is the supply system for the pump, and it's a little sketchy, but we'll get her cleaned up, and as long as she doesn't leak, we will be fine. So, we have a lot to clean up. Let's get after it. All right, well, we got one side mostly clear. The hardest part about picking stuff up around here is that you have things that are junk and trash like this here. And then you got stuff like this, which we were going to cut up into pieces so that we had chunks of square tubing, because that's handy and that can run into money pretty quick. And this square tubing has actually come in handy. But the problem is to cut this stuff, a torch is overkill. And to go through grinding cutting discs is really expensive. So one of these days I will process these because I know a guy who bought one of those like infinite life diamond grinding / cutting wheels, and he said they actually work pretty good and it's lasted quite a while. So the stuff that he's used it on, it's already paid for itself if you were to buy cutting wheels to do the same thing. So I'll buy one of those one of these days and cut this stuff up. But this is stuff that, I don't really want to get rid of. And of course, don't want to get rid of that. So, I mean, it's a little challenging. Of course, we're not going to get rid of that either. There's just a lot of stuff buried under here. And this part was me putting stuff here because I didn't think we were going to move this sprayer anytime soon. And I was right, but boy, that tire's struggling. All these tires are probably going to need air. And I'm thinking about just dragging the trailer over here to do that instead of trying to take the wheels off. And I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to do the other side, get it picked up. This stuff in front will be picked up, but I'll back up with the sprayer and it'll be fine. I'm not worried about moving it right now. I don't want to work that hard. I'm not really full of energy today. I'm kind of all over the place. So, yeah, this side, not near as bad. Some barrel holders, some big PVC or whatever, vinyl pipe. Get all that moved. And then we'll see about putting air in the tires, maybe. I don't know. I'm just, like I said, today I'm not super energetic. All right, wind's going to blow, but you can see over there, well, that's the junk unit, but the sprayer's all the way over there. And we're going to move it here. But we need to get this stuff picked up first, so I'm kind of working on that. And then my goal for this area is to have this is where we park the trailers and like the tractors and stuff that we're not going to use for a while. And then we'll have this all cleaned up where we can maneuver around in here. But we got to get all this stuff moved, and I almost forgot to show that because it's kind of important. This is property cleanup video after all. So it's not super exciting. We're just going to move one pile over here and another pile over there and more piles there and stuff, and get things consolidated around this what I like to call supply dump, which is just a couple cattle guards stacked on top of each other with all of our extra smooth wire and some T-posts and whatnot. And yeah, there's a lot that needs to be cleaned up here. Like, you know, that pile needs to be dealt with, that trailer needs to be moved. That's the bed off the Power Stroke, you know. But for right now, we're only concerned about getting this and probably that cleaned up so that the sprayer can go right here. I think we might go ahead and put it up in there. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but it's going in this area. This needs to be moved, and that's really the big thing. So the wind's going to come up, so you won't see much of this, but it'll look a lot nicer when it's done. All right, would you look at that? Much better. And it may not look like a lot, but it means a lot. All right, I said this in the introduction to the property cleanup. I'll say it again. It's not so much about how much work it is and, you know, all the things we have to clean up as much as it is what it all represents. So we got everything stacked up here real good. These railroad ties actually aren't too bad, I surprise. And Bobcat ran about as good as you can expect. Got this stuff moved to where it's all nice and orderly. Dug out all the barbed wire I knew was there, got it out of the way. And, oh, okay, there was a snake. Goddamn, it's that time of year again. It's St. Patrick's Day, you bastard. Yeah, holy, there he is. I don't know what kind of snake he is, but he's not hurting nothing. He's not a rattler, that's all I care about. So those metal crates that were leaned up against the sprayer there, they will go here, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just finishing up and I'm going to go in. Got some of the wood shoved up in a pile there. It all looks nice and neat. We'll get that shoved up more once we get this trailer moved. But that's another video. And like I said, today we are done. So next segment in this, I think, is going to be starting and moving that International. And if we can do that, we'll be sitting pretty good. So let's see if a good battery and some fuel will make her start. Oh boy, next day, much less wind. And just in case you guys thought I was BSing earlier about this having new oil in it, feast your eyes. Well, it looks black on camera, but or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. There's always a glare on the phone here when I'm trying to show you stuff, but I guarantee you that's brand new oil. It's never been run. Probably just enough to circulate it. So we've got good oil in there, which is awesome. I like good oil. It cranks, which means it will start, but it has to have fuel. And the fuel tank is empty. It's dry, which is good, because I don't really want to have to try and get water and stuff out of things. But because I don't really want to screw with this that much, you know, I'm not trying to milk this thing for content, so I don't want to make it a struggle session to get it started. So what I'm thinking is, to really help things out, I'll give you bleeders here. How about that? We'll probably open these. Okay. I'll put a couple 3 gallons of fuel in the tank, and we'll just see if it's going to leak all over the place or not. If there's rust in the way blocking the fuel lines, if that sediment bowl is open, you know, all the things, which it should all be open under there, but we're going to find out. I'm sure we'll make a mess. And once I know, or am confident that I have fuel getting to both of these filters and that they're full, and I might pull them off too. I mean, they're old, but I might pull them off. And oh, there's drain on the bottom too on both of them. Nope, just this back one, so that's good. They really thought of everything with them filters. All right, so the the point is here, I just want to make sure that the water's out of the filters, so I'm not shoving that into the pump. And then we'll see about putting diesel in it. And then all right, place your bets for how much water is going to come out of that. We're going to try and do this the easy way. Let's see here. Still nothing. Now, there it goes. I'm going to say that's going to be nasty. Oh, goodness. That is almost 100% water. It doesn't even smell like diesel. So, there you go. Oh, yeah, that's water. 100% water. But if we get in the... That's a little dirty, but it's not too bad. Okay, we got both of the upper bleeders open on the filters. We have the back lower filter drain still open, and it is still dripping. As you can see there, it is dirty. So we're going to throw a little fuel in the tank. What your guys' job is going to be is to watch it, and then if it starts to leak everywhere and not go through the lines to the fuel filters, you need to tell me that, okay? That's your job. Well, that's not supposed to happen, I don't think. Okay, so for some reason, as you can see, I got a new piece of rubber line there. But that used to be a return line for some reason that went from the fuel sediment bowl up to where the return line is, because this is all returned from the injection system, right? And for some reason, they had another line that went there. And so that had become so stiff over time that I think it rotated, and the first time I spun this engine over, even if it was by hand, it snapped, or it had already snapped. And so what I got to do now, because I snapped off that piece of plastic, excuse me, right there, I got to take that all off, because I think there's a nipple there that I can kind of slide that 3/8 hose over and make this work. Because otherwise, every bit of fuel I pour in there is just going to go on the ground. And I'm not interested in that. Have you seen the price of diesel lately? So I'm going to fix that, and then we'll try getting some fuel here. All right, well, the sediment bowl still leaks, but at least we're not pouring out all of our fuel. So it looks like we're getting... Oh, that's the wrong screwdriver. Hang on here. From my tools. Okay. So we got fuel coming out here, which is good. And it looks to me like we have fuel coming out here, which is also good. So we're going to go out on a limb and say that we got fuel. All right, which means I think we should be able to start it, in theory. Now, assuming that the injector return lines, these little turds right here, assuming they don't just, break open, which hopefully they won't, in theory, this thing will run long enough for me to get it out of here. That's the theory. So I'm going to put a fresh battery on, because I actually charged batteries this time. So I'm going to put a fresh battery on this, and then we'll get in the cab and see if we can get her to crank. Oh, come on. Is that battery shot? It shouldn't be. It said it was fully charged. Alright, well, I guess we'll go out and see if it'll crank at the starter. I mean, that should be a good battery. Maybe it doesn't want to crank from the cab anymore. No. Okay, hang on here. Let's try something real quick. This is an advanced technique I call shoving the Bendix back into the starter. And now... Nope. Okay, it's not having it. So, that battery is junk, I guess. I have one more that might be good enough to crank this thing over. So, let me put it on real quick. Alright, we'll try it with this one, which I don't think has as many cranking amps. Yeah, that's better. Alright. It should crank from the cab now. We'll just double check here. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. So, before we continue, let's see. Give her some throttle. Theoretically, that's in neutral. The PTO is off. The shutoff should work. And I got two different types of ether from the Tractor Supply. I got their in-house brand, which I don't know how well that's going to work. And then I also bought a bottle of the gum out because I just don't know which one's going to work better. So I've been using the Traveler to clear the diesel and stuff off my hands. So that's awesome. And we're just going to give her lots. So everyone loves ether, right? Okay. Okay, well that was easy. I guess it'll start and run now. Alright, well it fired on ether, and I don't think it's going to take off and get away from me. So I'm going to set you guys up on the tripod where you can see things a little better. And then once I got it fired up and I'm sure it's going to sit there and run, we will disconnect the battery because I don't want to run it over, and we'll see if the front's going to pick up, and then we'll just move it. I was going to air the rear tires up, but then I thought, you know what? I'm not going to screw with it because they're tubeless, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to hold air. I know that one's not. So we'll just drag them. If we tear the tires up, I mean, it's not a big deal. So yeah, there you go. All right, now hopefully the camera doesn't get overheated sitting in the sun. All right, more diesel. Let's try it again. Had to make sure the fuel stop worked. Yeah, it's getting a little warm. Needs a new battery. So we're gonna have to wait because I got one charging right now, but it needs more. It needs more battery. I'm actually surprised that has air in it. So see if I can tighten that up a little bit. Yeah, that made it a little better. Okay, so for some reason I think it's catching and it's firing on the fuel, the diesel, but the hydrostat is not happy about it. So apparently I got to run this thing at full throttle for hydrostat purposes, and I was just going to try and break it free because, as you saw, I would have to disconnect the battery to get it the rest of the way out. I didn't want to run the battery over, but it won't stay running when I try and put it in gear. It does not like reverse. Well, put it in gear. It's a hydrostat. So what we will do is wait for that battery to charge, and I might see about putting a bucket under here to catch all that damn fuel, because it's leaking pretty bad. That's why I hate sediment bulbs. But yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll try it again. But it was starting up without ether. That's, after it got done smoking, I could fire it right back up, and it was fine. So it's getting fuel. It just won't stay running. Probably some air or something if I had to guess. But the shutoff does work. All right, well, the other battery in the shop is charging. It should be good after lunch. But I decided, instead of trying to get this running and then get out and disconnect the battery and then get in it and run the possibility of it dying on me, I would just, clear some junk out of the box. Because the problem with this battery box is that they wanted the cables to come in through here, right? And then that gave me like zero room to hook anything up without risking grounding it out on the box. So we'll do it this way. We got an old can of junk that used to sit right there. So, reduce, reuse, recycle. And we got a handy little spot for our, emergency direct starter link. And yeah, so we will let this work its magic, or the charger work its magic, and then we'll throw it. And the other battery is better because this one has 550 cold cranking amps. The other one's got like 850. So I know it's got more crankage power. And then also I realized that it doesn't matter if I throw the PTO lever forward or not, because as you can see right there, there's no belt for that idler to grab onto. I don't think it likes that. So it don't matter. So there's no risk of us engaging the PTO, which is awesome, because that's a concern I had. And I need to look and see about, because I think you add hydraulic fluid to here. This is full of fluid and it smells good. I need to find if there's like a level dipstick somewhere or a plug, because it could be, I know this is crazy, but it's possible this thing's low on hydraulic fluid, which might be why it dies when you try and, you know, put it in gear. So I don't know, we'll see. But the shutoff works, the throttle works. We just need to get the engine running on straight fuel. Getting hot. So if we can get her running on straight diesel, we'll be good. But we'll come back to that later. All right, fresh battery. Get her hooked up here. We got us a ground and the power. And yes, I promise that's right. Okay, believe me, I went through enough with these damn battery connections. Not that you guys would know, because, well, that was in cuts, or that was in video attempts that you're probably never going to see. So the goal now is I want to get this thing to run without ether, okay? And so I'm going to get started up and I'll let it run really good for a while. I'll run it through various throttle positions to make sure that it's going to run and that it's getting enough fuel to it. And then if all that checks out, we'll try and move it again. So I'll bring you guys back when I got her all figured out. Got her running now. Had to clean out the fuel lines, put a little more fuel in there, and it runs good. So we're going to try and move it. All right, well, it didn't make it very far. It was running really good until it wasn't. And yeah, make sure that spins, because the water temperature gauge says it's getting hot. I don't know how true that is or not, but we have a problem. This fuel filter has sprung a leak in the bottom. It's not, I mean, it's not like horrible necessarily, but it's not great. So this only has to run long enough to get it to where it needs to go. And it was doing really, really good, but I was running it at full throttle, and I don't know that it has enough fuel weight to do stuff. But I mean, that quit dripping. I cleaned this fuel line. There's no reason why it shouldn't be starting and running. So I'm going to hop up in there. If I can get lucky, this thing has enough juice left to fire it up again. Give her a little snort of the good stuff to help her out. And then we'll continue our maiden voyage. And hopefully it works this time. Because if I blow that fuel filter, that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to have fuel filters. Or I could rob them off the old unit, I guess. But that seems a little overkill to me. But when I mean, like I said, it starts right up. Or it should. But we're going to help her out. Used a whole can of the Traveler earlier, so now we're down to all that. Hopefully that doesn't backfire on me. Oh, yeah, we're good. Think she'll crank? It's died 2 more times, and I'm not 100% sure why, to be honest with you. But the running theory I have, well, okay, I do know why it died, actually. It's not getting enough fuel. And it's not because the injection pump's not working. It's because the injection pump's not getting enough fuel. Now, I don't know what aspect of the fuel system here is bad. It could be that there's crud in the pickup in the tank, or the drain in the tank. It could be that the fuel filters here have deteriorated after I introduced new fuel to them, and they're just not holding up very well. But we have a Napa Gold part number there, 3472, and I'll go cross that and see what I can find. The other unit that we have up there it has a different system here, and those filters are in worse shape than these. So between this one leaking and it not getting enough fuel here, I'm done with this for today. I'm not going to give up on it or anything, but also, oh, I guess the battery is okay. It wasn't wanting to crank earlier. But that battery needs to be charged. You know, I need to figure out what the hell's going on with the fuel system. I took this line off, I cleaned it, I purged a bunch of crud out of the sediment bowl. It's possible that it picked up more stuff. You know, all sorts of things, but it's not getting enough fuel. And so you can go through your mind and think about all the things that could be happening, you know, or why it's not getting fuel. So I've moved the return line over here because the way I think this is supposed to work is the fuel comes in, it's filtered, it gets put to the pump sends it out to the injectors, okay, and then the injector, the excess fuel from each injector is pushed back into here, where it is sent back to the pump, and then also up into the tank, and then also back down into the fuel bulb, the fuel T right there. And I'm going to reach in there and shut that off just so we don't lose all that diesel, and I'm going to find a way to cover the tank. It's got enough fuel in there that there should be enough weight that it should gravity feed, especially once all this is primed up and running. Because so what I've been doing, if I come over here and I verify that this is getting plenty of fuel, and I open both of these bleeders and fill these filters up, which they're not filling now, so that's how you know it's not getting any fuel. But I open those bleeders up, I bleed them off so the filters are full, and then I give it a snort of ether, and it just fires right up, and it runs wonderfully. And then all of a sudden it doesn't. It will move about 50 yards, and then it's toast. So we're going to come back with a different fuel strategy. I might even rig up a special tank, and that might actually be a better idea if I rig up a special tank and strap it down somewhere just so I know this is getting good fuel. But I'm not going to do that today. So whatever I come up with, that's what you will see next. Okay, I'm done playing around. I got to fabricating and using some of the things we have on the shelf here. So I took an old fuel pump out of a Buick van, a Terraza, and I'll tell you why it's in here and out of there, because you're probably wondering, well, why'd you take a good fuel pump out of that to put in a bucket? I'll explain. But this does work. I just got done, I just got done testing it, and literally all I have to do is hook it up and it pushes fuel. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a lot better than the little dribble that I was getting before. So it works, and then I'm also going to put new fuel filters on. And then it should start and run and move the final 200 yards, because we have to go around some things. We can't just go as the crow flies. But regardless, I fabricated this in this way because I thought it might be kind of handy to have a mobile fuel tank that you can just hang off the side of something, hook up to a battery, and plug a fuel line in. Now, it's not going to work on something that requires a high pressure fuel input, but if it'll push enough fuel to, make the thing run, whatever it is, make it run enough to move it to a better spot to work on, or to, load on a trailer, well, that would just be really, really handy now, wouldn't it? Now, I know you can buy these things. You can buy these little, transfer pumps and auxiliary fuel pumps and all that. They're a lot more compact than this. But you don't get more convenient than hanging something off the side of a machine and running it. I mean, the versatility here is just endless, and it'll work with gas or diesel. Well, I don't know how long it'll work with diesel, but originally it was supposed to work with gas. And it will. Look, all it has to do is push diesel long enough to move that stupid sprayer. If it takes a shit after this, I don't care. But to the fuel pump itself, I'll put a picture on screen if I remember to show you the fuel pump out of a Buick Terraza. And this is one of General Motors' better designs, because they always have good designs, especially when you go to change a battery. But they thought it would be a genius idea to make a fuel pump where the pump part of the housing slides on these two rods and it floats with the fuel level. So your fuel level drops. Oh, your pump portion drops down so it can suck more fuel. Did they make it stationary in the tank? Oh, no, because that would have been too easy. That would have been too easy. They had a better idea. And so, because the nature of gas, especially with the ethanol, is so corrosive these days, what happens is it wears out these rods that lower portion of the pump slides on, and it will seize, or it'll get kind of cockeyed, and then it won't do this anymore like it's supposed to. And so then you can't run the vehicle below however much per tank. And then it also will start to burn the pump up because it's working too hard trying to suck fuel. You know, and combine this with the fact that the gas tank is kind of asininely shaped, then you get this result. So this van in question, which is not ours, we'll just say it's a family member's, okay? They've had this thing for years. They've put like 5 fuel pumps in it. I put the last one in just because I didn't want to pay the local Chevrolet dealer to do it. And it wasn't a hard job, but it was stupid. It's just stupid. That's all there is to it. So when I replaced this, I noticed that the pump itself was still running and it sounded fine. And so I thought, okay, well, what I could do is just put new springs in this, and then if the pump goes out again, then we can just use this instead of having to buy another housing assembly. And I obviously decided I wasn't going to do that. It wasn't worth the trouble, and it'll work better here anyway. So I cut those rods and did a few other things and modified it to where I would show you, but I've already kind of secured everything. But it's down there. It will be submerged in fuel. I'm going to put a little more fuel in it. I drained what was left in the sprayer's fuel tank into this just for testing purposes. It's probably about a third full, but I'll fill it up more, and then I should be able to hang this right off the side of the machine, and it should push fuel right through into the filter housing with no problem. I don't know if I'll have to rig up a return. I've got some fuel line, and I've got, I think, some fittings I can make it work if I had to. I don't want back pressure, and burn up the pump. I don't want to do that, but, it'll be all right, and it should work. Oh my, is this ever very special. So, I spent a lot of time trying to wire this up where I could run it from a switch in the cab, and that didn't work. That's long story short. It didn't work. And so this is all stupid. I'll have to tear it out later. But we've got I don't know what the hell you'd call it, the return on the fuel bowl plugged so that it doesn't just leak everywhere because there's more fuel in the main tank than I thought. I got a bucket full of diesel. The pump does work. I mean, look, I don't like hooking gator clips up like this, but ooh my, it works. Tell you what, goodness, does that ever work? Tell you what, we will just close that down ever so slightly. Let's just double check here. And of course the wind switches to the east right as I'm trying to fill it. It's probably good. So I'm going to tighten this up. We'll run the pump and make sure there's not a tone change because I have to come out here to shut it off. And so I don't want to go too crazy and blow it up. I wonder. I hear it lugging down. I wonder. Oh, cool. It comes out there. Huh. Well, that's okay. Okay, so that works. Maybe I just need to stick the return line right in the tank. Okay, take 2. There's definitely a lot of pressure on that, so any minute now we should hear it dribbling in there. Working its way through the pump. Okay. In theory, we're okay. So what I'm going to do now is get this thing fired up, and then once I've verified it's, not going to take off on me, I'll run out here and plug the fuel pump in, and then we should be able to move it the rest of the way without any issues. So let's just grab that. It was leaking here a little bit. Can I tighten that up any? Yes. Okay. Should, in theory, work. When the pump is running and pushing fuel, it should return a lot easier. The problem is I don't want it to return through here, really. I want it to return through here, but we'll see what it does. You guys excited? I'm excited. Yeah, you can see I had a really custom system set up here, but should we give her a snort? We're going to. I'd rather not take chances. We'll just give her... That's fine. All right, that's low. Give her a little bit of throttle. Shut off is off. We have power. You ready? Okay, well, it's not going to go anywhere. We need McFuel. Think she'll go again? She needs fuel. We'll do that right there. Let's go hook the pump up and see if it'll start before I drain the battery. Oh boy, man, that ether's pungent. There we go. Now, I swear, if I burn through like 5 gallons of diesel trying to move this thing, I'm going to be very unhappy. But we'll see. All right, let's try it again. Look at that, it doesn't even smoke. All I had to do was be really special. All right, well, let's take a look here. I mean, it's not perfect. That's pretty much where I wanted it, actually. Oh yeah, I like that. I think we can work with that. So, all it took was like 8 hours of prep work to move it for 8 minutes. But when it's getting fuel, It just runs beautifully. Let's see if our fuel return's making a mess. Oh, it's not even that dangerous. Little much back pressure. Well, now it'll run out of fuel and die here in a minute. But I'm surprised that alternator bracket didn't come apart. All right, I like it. Shut that off. All right, I like it. And yeah, that was a lot of work to move it not very far. But it's moved, which is awesome. I'm glad that it was able to run under its own power. Now, I know the camera was a little jankety when I was driving it around. It's kind of hard to steer this thing, you know, one-handed. You really need two hands to run the hydrostat and everything. But you may have noticed that when I got to that little hill over there by that trailer, I had to give it more, whatever the hell you'd call it, more, not throttle, but more forward, if you know what I mean. And I had to give it like a lot more forward. It's hard to tell. Hydrostat's not really the best on this, but I tell you what, that little engine back there, that D239, that sounds really good. And if we do rip it out of this and make it a power unit, it'll make a hell of a power unit. So, you know, that, I think that about does it for this video. It took a month almost of various times during the month of getting things done on this to move it. And we moved it from all the way over there, clear around to where it sits right now. Excuse me. But it runs good, and I'm happy with that, and it's still moved, and I'm really happy with that because I was looking at having to move it with a skid steer. I didn't want to do it. So we're all good now. Next video, next property cleanup video will be kind of an amalgamation of some other things, because the next big thing we need to do is get that other intersmashable, and I know it's not going to start because the starter is bad. We need to get that moved and dealt with next. So that's the next big part. I don't know what the next installment of property cleanup will be, but it'll be exciting. Oh, almost tripped on that. It'll be exciting. So yes, I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching. I know that was pretty not super duper exciting, but you know, I'm happy. I'm happy with this. This makes me feel better. That thing sat in that spot for a long time, and now it's going to sit in a different spot for a long time. So sometimes shuffling things around makes your property look nicer and really opens up opportunities for you. So yes, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to get off here before I just keep repeating myself, because I think I'm doing that. I'll be back with another video at some point. We're getting into spring, so plenty of spring projects. But, you know, like everything on a farm, it's either nothing at all or all at once. So I'll get the camera out when I can. Hope you guys will tune back in for the next property cleanup video. And we'll just catch you then. Take care.